All right, we are live. Welcome everybody. We will do this every Wednesday, 1 p.m. California time and 4 p.m. East Coast time. Samir is with us. Samir, if you want to do like quick intro, maybe people who haven't watched our live before.
Yeah, if you haven't watched our live before, how dare you? I'm just kidding. No, it's nice to see everyone. My name is Samir, the immigration lawyer in Silicon Valley, California. I've been practicing for over 20 years and super excited to be here with you.
Yeah. One of these days I should just like visit. I mean, you're like 3 hours drive from me, so we should like do
Not
it in
far.
person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But Samir, I know there's like a lot of news going on, so I want to start there. But also, I know we talked about O1 webinar, so we'll probably announce that like when we are doing it in coming time. And then I also want to mention to all the audience, if you have any need for immigration, Samir and his team can help you. I'll put the links in the description so people can connect with you if they need, or not you necessarily, but you or anyone from your team. They may see you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm lucky. That's right.
yes, let's start with F1 visa. So there was a policy that has been now
Hmm.
officially out for students about like the changes that has been made. That social media profile has to be public. I saw there like then there was like an insider news that everyone will get 221G. I don't know how true is that, but
Hmm.
like let me like
It's
if you
true.
want.
It's true.
Oh, is it true?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's true. So, first of all, let's contextualize the situation. This is for everybody applying for visa stamping. Okay. So you're leaving the US, which you don't have to do. I understand. You want to see family and go to weddings and all these things, right? See ill relatives. But if you leave the country and return, you have to have a visa stamp, right? Unless you're Canadian, right? If you are getting a new visa stamp or applying for your first visa stamp, this applies to you at
Mm.
US consulates abroad. And I guess like the process is going to work like this. You have your interview. Okay. After the interview or at the interview, they're going to issue you a 221G. They're required to
Regardless.
now. They're required to. Yeah, because they need time. Now, every officer is required to examine every applicant's social media profile. And only the officer that does the interview can do the evaluation.
Yeah.
You understand? So how are they supposed to do that right away? They need to go back and on their own time evaluate that. And so they've been ordered to issue 221Gs to give themselves time to do that. How much time? It
Yeah.
remains to be seen. I mean, this is not a very scalable process. If you can imagine one officer doing 50 student visa appointments a day, they have to look at 50 social media profiles a day. I mean,
Well,
this is
not 50. I
almost
mean, these days everyone has like three or four. So
50 people. Yeah, exactly. And then four different accounts per person. So 200 profiles
yep.
a day. Um, yeah, it doesn't look good. And it looks like it's almost like specifically designed to cause delays and chaos in the system.
Hmm. Is there a pushback from consulates or no?
The consulates have received this order from their leadership, so they are not pushing back on their bosses. Unfortunately, they have been given their marching orders and they have to do it.
So, and do we know when is this implemented, or is this
As
effective
of right
immediately?
now. So it's within 5 days of that announcement. We refer to it. I mean, we had our podcast last week
Yeah.
when the cable was leaked, right?
Yeah.
The cable was released later that day,
Mm.
right? And within 5 days of that, they were supposed to open up appointments and institute this process. So it's in effect as we speak.
Wow. So every single person who goes for F1 visa, I think it's F, M, and J
That's
visas,
correct. Yeah.
um,
Mhm.
will receive 221G. And
Yeah.
essentially, 221G is like administrative processing,
Yes.
regardless of if your profile has anything or not, kind of thing.
Regardless. Yeah. Because the whole point is give themselves time to look at each person. So
That is,
and how long will it take? We just don't know. I mean, this only time will tell, right? We have to see how this bears out. We're going to have to listen to you the audience here, hear everyone's experience, and we will know over time how this is going to be.
Yeah. Does this cover H1B or probably not H1B?
This is only for F, M, and J, so students and trainees. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it almost feels like um, intentionally reducing the number of students. I mean, I don't know. It just feels like, I mean, there's, yeah.
You're just getting that sense right now? I mean, yeah, I know. It's, yeah, they'll never admit it, but certainly every act this administration has taken over the past several months shows that they have the explicit intention to reduce the amount of international students that come into the U.S. And this is a huge problem because anybody who's educated, I mean, no pun intended, in this issue, right? Every economist you speak to, every CEO you speak to understands the importance of ensuring clear and smooth pathways for international talent, right? And brains to come into the U.S. I mean, this is a serious situation. We're already losing students to other countries. This does not bode well for our future.
Yeah.
But here we are. Here we are.
Yeah. Okay. And then there was another news. I think this is probably related to that question. Is there any change in the duration of how much we can stay outside of US on H1?
Yeah. I heard about that experience to those three H1B holders in Abu Dhabi who are so in Abu Dhabi you can actually go through US immigration there, right? You can do that in Ireland, and you can do that in Canada as well. So okay. The reasons they gave to I think it was the Financial Times, was that they were told that they were outside the U.S. for more than 60 days. Therefore, they were not allowed, or their visas were revoked. This is not a rule that we are aware of. Okay, so we're still trying to figure out what exactly happened there. My gut feeling is that that's not why they were revoked. Okay, usually visas are revoked if somebody has violated the terms of the visa. Being outside the U.S. for more than 60 days is not a violation of an H1B visa. Okay, there's lots of support out there, lots of authority to support the contention that people can be outside the country for longer. People can be on leave. People can even be working from India or from other countries, right? And commute in on their H1B visas. That's been the case for a very long time. So we were surprised to see that, and we're looking into it. But I think the higher likelihood is that there's more to that story than we know.
Yeah. I know there's like already 100+ questions. Any other immigration trend that you're seeing or news that you're like seeing that this might be important for audience to keep in mind?
Well, as you remember, we were at the AILA, the American Immigration Lawyers Association conference last week. So the biggest takeaway, we had all the awesome kind of expert immigration lawyers out there. And a lot of the takeaways that we got was that USCIS, the consulates, before they had information and they had a really hard time sharing it with each other. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was often, relatively easy to kind of get by and basically not have to give all the information or to get away with minor stuff here or there, right? Because there was no way for the government to check up on that. I think those times are gone. Okay. We've heard that the government has entered into a contract with Palantir several years ago, and we're piloting software to triangulate all the data they have on incoming travelers, right? And it's pretty much certain now that they can kind of pull all that up now on anybody, any point they want to, whether they're at the consulate, whether they're coming into the U.S., whether they're in the U.S. applying for extensions, those kinds of things. I mean, not to scare anybody, most people have nothing to hide, right? But I think this is just going to be the newest development, is that they are making heavy use of AI in their enforcement and kind of data synchronization efforts. And just understand that this is going to be the new reality for all foreign nationals coming to the U.S.
And for, sorry, when you said AI, I thought for the F1 visa, they're probably going to collect this social media profile on DS-160. So is it that officers are going to manually check this, or is there going to be a tool?
They've been instructed to manually check it right now. So basically, it's so for example, Instagram, right? So first of all, everyone needs to set their profiles to public, right?
Yeah.
Right, we know that. And then they've been instructed to go on to certain of like the office's Instagram accounts to view the applicant's Instagram account. So they're literally asking each officer to go physically and look at each account. Maybe in the future, they will use AI. Maybe they are using AI to kind of try to flag, content, right? That they deem to be, negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
But right now, the instructions are to do it manually.
Wow. Okay. This is gonna be very interesting.
It's gonna be a mess.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to the questions. I'm currently 18. My dad is planning to apply for an L1 visa, and I'll apply for L2 visa and go to US for education if my F1 visa gets rejected. I plan to go on L2 and later change my status.
You might want to, I mean, is that the question? Oh, here he is. If my F1 visa gets rejected, I'll go to the US on L2, later change. Is that possible before 21? Yeah. I mean, that might be the plan. Just if you're doing the L1, might as well just come in on the L2. Forget about this whole mess that's happening right now, right? You'll enter on the L2. You're allowed to attend school on an L2. And then later on, before you turn 21, you can change your status in the US. Maybe by that time, the rules will have changed at the consulates and things will be better, maybe not. If they're not better, you can always change your status in the US without having to travel and get the stamp, like we mentioned.
How is Abu Dhabi US pre-clearance for F1 student? I've heard they are very strict in terms of immigration. I've never had an experience.
I don't know any specific anecdotes aside from the story that just came out about those 3 H1B holders.
Yeah.
I would say any pre-clearances, every CBP office, Customs Border Protection office is strict, right?
Yeah.
It's like comparing strict versus stricter versus strictest, and they're all within degrees of each other. So I would not expect to be, to get any red carpet treatment in any office. So, So yes, I would say they're strict as is every office.
Yep. Okay. I initially applied for H1B to B2 change of status, and new employer is considering options to either do change of status to H1 or counselor appointment. Which one would be better?
Yeah, I mean, the answer is both. Here's a question. Okay, this is a good question by Harsh. Prior to the Trump administration, the Biden administration made it a little bit easier for people who are laid off from their H1B jobs, right? So let's say you're laid off and you have a 60-day grace period, right, to find another job. Well, it's really hard to find another job and get another H1B filed in 60 days. So the Biden administration released guidance on the USCIS website to basically insinuate that you can apply to change to B2, right? And then while your B2 application is pending, because they're often pending for several months, you find a job, that employer can file for the H1B transfer, and they will process the B2 and the H1B at the same time, such that you wouldn't have to leave the country. Okay? So that guidance on the website was archived a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So that leads us to believe that this USCIS is not going to be as, generous. We don't know that yet. We haven't seen or heard any anecdotal evidence yet. We've heard of some possibilities of RFEs being issued. But here's the thing. So if you had applied to a B2 and your employer wants to do an H1B, they can still try. The worst that'll happen, okay, is that they can still try to change your status here in the US. But the worst that'll happen is that your H1B itself will be approved. But in order to activate it, you have to leave the US and come back in with a valid visa stamp.
Okay. So won't have the change of status.
Yeah. So think of the H1B as two separate things. There's a status and there's how it's activated.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they can ask for it to be activated via a change of status automatically. That the government may not do so. Okay. But it doesn't mean you won't get the H1B. You just have to leave the US, come back in with a valid visa stamp to activate.
Mm. Got it. Okay. Do all of these affect F1 visa renewals as well? I'm currently in USA. I'm assuming this person is talking about F1 visa social media
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. So it does affect you if you're renewing your stamp at a US embassy or consulate abroad. If you don't plan to leave the US, then it doesn't affect you. This is only for people who are applying for stamps abroad.
Yeah. Have master's degree, currently working as a software engineer. I don't have a research profile as of now, but what could be done to build up EB2 national interest waiver profile, or should I start PERM instead?
I wouldn't look at it as an instead thing. The decision to start PERM is your employer's, right? So just have them do it. But you should certainly be trying to build up your NIW profile and eventually your EB1A profile on your own. This can take time. So you should do those things in parallel. Okay. Engineers with bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, born in India, the only way you're going to get a green card is by getting a priority date and then getting an EB1 down the line. Otherwise, the waits are just too long, right? So building your profile is pretty much a requirement, a necessity for you. Everyone needs to think that way. It may take a long time. If you've just graduated, it could take 3 years to get to NIW level. It could take 7 years to get to an EB1 level, but that's still better than the 150 years that the EB2 line is taking.
Yeah. Are you seeing any different in terms of approvals, RFEs for NIW, or is it still?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what you're comparing it to, like which period, right? Last year at this time, NIWs were getting approved in droves. I believe USCIS thought that they were approving too many cases. Now they're totally overcorrecting on the other side. And a lot of cases are getting denied or RFE'd now. But we still get cases approved. And the cases that are getting approved are the ones that can show a diversified skill set of accomplishments outside of their employer, right? That's why building your profile is important. Because you're building the accomplishments and the recognition of your expertise outside of your company. That way you can show the government, I'm likely to impact the country, not just my employer. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that can simultaneously help with your future EB1A profile building as well.
Nice. Okay. H1B PERM approved. Want to go to India for stamping after I-140 approval, but working for a consultancy. Same client for first H1 and second H1 renewal too. However, last visa expired. Safe for me to go?
I'm not going to guarantee safety for you. I don't think it's ever safe, honestly, for consultants to get stamped. I think consultants get a higher rate of 221Gs than other H1B applicants. So just make sure you document the existence of your client, of your company's compliance with all the H1B rules. Make sure you have all the letters and all the different kind of documentation that you know you need, your employer knows you need, and pray you don't get a 221G. But if your H1Bs are approved, then your stamp should eventually be approved. It just may take a little bit of time.
Okay. Do you think getting your visa slot F1 booked via agent will cause any problems or any future repercussions?
I don't think there'll be repercussions for you. I believe they are working to stop agents from being able to book F1s and any other visa applications for that matter. So maybe the agents will start seeing the repercussions. But if you have a visa slot, you have a visa slot. Just make sure that you're doing your own DS-160s. Because if the agents are doing that for you, they are making representations to the government about you that you're supposed to be making. And if they're wrong, you will be considered to have misrepresented, which is a lifetime ban from the US. So don't take your responsibilities lightly in terms of the information given to the government.
Yeah. What is the latest on EB1 approvals? Do you see any trends? What is latest on EB1A revocations?
Yeah, so the trends that we're seeing on EB1As, See, you have more and more Indians who are working really, really hard without green cards for a longer and longer time as the backlogs increase, right? They're building up better and better profiles, or some are building up poor profiles but are building profiles, right? And so we're seeing a lot of EB1A applicants. I think in both cases, the government is seeing people that are qualifying for more and more categories and have decided to use final merits, which is a second step subjective analysis. Does this person appear to be at the very top of their field? Do they appear to have a record of sustained national or international acclaim? They get to invoke their subjective perceptions on the case, and they're denying more and more cases on those grounds. People that have 4 or 5 categories met. So that's the trends that we're seeing. So it's doubly important when you're building your profile to build it with kind of final merits in mind, right? It's not enough to get Globies for judging. Don't go out and get media, to show recognition. That's not how engineers are recognized for their accomplishments, right? There are more kind of unique ways. Don't do what everybody else is doing. If you do what everybody else is doing, you know who sees what everyone else is doing? USCIS, right? If they see all these cases that are looking the same, they don't want to approve them. They look like they're all the same. We want to see unique, demonstrations of extreme accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
So that's the biggest trend that we're seeing. As far as the revocations, we are hearing about people getting text messages from USCIS notifying them that they're intending to revoke their EB1s because of negative information they've received about their awards or their media, right? So this goes back to how are you being shady in your profile building, to put it bluntly, right? And it also goes back to this idea that USCIS is using AI more and more to kind of to scrape through all of their applications, past applications, look for patterns or look for certain characteristics, go back and revoke cases that they believe may have been done in that way. So this is happening.
And I know you also teach like how to build the profile correctly, or like you have a cohort. When is it? New one?
I believe it's September 6th, that first Saturday in September. I can't remember the date exactly, but we teach our classes on Saturday mornings, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific for
Nice.
6 consecutive weeks. And we'll have at least one more cohort after that this year. Our approach has always been like we're lawyers, right? Like we see all the different ways things go wrong. We want to protect people.
Yeah.
We've always been teaching people to go about and build their profile in a way that's legally strong, right? There aren't shortcuts, unfortunately. There are hacks or time-saving hacks, and we have coaches that'll help teach you that, but they're not shortcuts. It's going to be hard work to build your profile.
Yeah.
But it's worth it. We want you to build something strong that lasts. That's not going to be revoked, at the slightest sign of inconsistency by USCIS.
Yeah. And people can join the waitlist if they are interested. I'll put the link.
Absolutely. Yeah. You just you'll present a link on your YouTube page, and they can go to that page and apply directly on the website.
Nice. Okay.
The seats are limited.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I'm currently pursuing PhD on day 1 CPT since 2 years now, and planning to travel to India during winter break, December. All the paperwork are in place. Is it safe to travel? Do you recommend? Safe is the hard word over here.
Yeah, you're looking for guarantees, and I'm sorry, like there just aren't guarantees. We can't predict the future. That being said, Digisha, you don't say if you have a visa stamp already in place. Do you have a visa stamp? If you do, and your I-20 has been endorsed for travel, and you are maintaining the terms of your status, I don't see any problems for you. That being said, you never know for sure, and CPT is a little, I know you know this, CPT is a little fragile right now. It's a little tenuous, and I'd be concerned about those who are in or planning to go into CPT in the future, because I can see that as being first on the government's list in terms of what they're going to get rid of.
Yeah. I forgot to mention two of my old Instagram account made 3-4 years ago with 0 followers in my DS160. I've made them public. How can I inform embassy or consulate about this update? So do they have to update their DS160?
I mean, they're not going to check your profiles until after the interview. So as long as you made them public, as soon as you can, and maybe hopefully you haven't gotten for the interview yet, you should be okay. However, if they're not public, if they haven't been public made after the interview, then they'll view that as kind of a negative sign, like you're trying to hide something, right? So hopefully the interview has not happened yet.
I'm just imagining the chaos at the consulate. So you go. Are they going to ask any question? Because like at the end, you're still going to get 221G if they want to review your profile.
The typical interview lasts what, 90 seconds?
Yeah.
Right. That's still going to happen, right? They're probably going to come up with a list of questions. Have you ever posted on social media any derogatory information about the administration or about its policies or anything criticizing, the U.S. or anything like that? Especially, they're specifically focused on the Hamas issue, right?
Yeah.
Because then if you say no and then they find something, they'll use that as an excuse to say you misrepresented. You may never come back to the U.S. again, right? So that's probably what they're going to be asking for. In addition to like, where are you going to school? What are you going to study? That kind of stuff.
So the 90-second will happen. They'll probably ask question, but at the end, they either will reject it because they didn't like the first part of the answers, or they will say like, hey, we need more time to review your profile.
Yeah, I mean, they have rejected, they have denied applicants at interviews themselves, right? So that could always happen if that was going to happen before. But my guess is they're going to have a pre-printed pile of 221G notices right next to them, and they're just going to write in whatever they have to fill in and just give it to each person at the end of it, and then try to sort it out later.
It's horrible. Okay, my employer might send me to Mexico for some weeks for work. Is it fine or risky in any way while coming back? I'm on H1B.
Let's remember that this black or white between fine and risky. I understand what you're asking for. Like, you should ask the question should be, what are the risks? Okay. Understand the situation you're getting yourself into. There are no black or white, fine versus risky. That being said, this is a very common thing. If actually people, I don't know if people know what automatic revalidation is. Automatic revalidation is, let's say you're in H1B status. In some visa forms, check with the lawyer before you do this, but you're allowed to travel to a contiguous territory, i.e. Mexico or Canada, okay, for less than 30 days without a visa stamp. If you are maintaining status, like if you have a valid I-94, right, you can actually go to those countries and be readmitted without a visa stamp. Ideally, you have a visa stamp, but in this case, if they don't, if the travel is for less than 30 days, it still should be okay. Right? As with any travel, just make sure you're carrying proof of your status, your original approval notice, your last 3 pay stubs, an employment verification letter, and your current passport, hopefully your current visa.
Yep. Where do you find what platforms are social media?
How do we tell somebody, okay, why don't you GPT the typical social media platforms, and then are you on any of those? I don't know how else to answer that question, but
yeah.
What are they? I mean, they are Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube,
Twitter,
or X. That's a big one. Blue Sky, Signal.
Yeah. Telegram. I mean, I don't know. Could be.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us about EB3 Green Card visa, skilled worker, professionals, and unskilled?
So there's an annual green card quota, right? There's 2 actually. There's a employment-based and a family-based, right? So employment-based is EB, family-based is FB. So that's what the EB stands for. Your application for a green card is based on employment. So in most cases, it's an employer sponsoring you, right? Usually after you're already in the US on a visa, although that's not required. That's almost always the case, right? So there's different preferences, right? Depending on, you know, who you are, what the company requires. The first preference gets the first cut at the numbers. That's EB1, right? Extraordinary ability, outstanding researcher professor, or multinational manager. Okay. Then the EB2 gets a second cut. Generally speaking, these are people who have been sponsored by their employers, who are being sponsored for jobs that require at least a master's degree or a bachelor's degree in 5 years experience. Or you can self-sponsor for an NIW. But generally just think master's degree for the most part for EB2. Then EB3 are for companies sponsoring you for anything less than a master's degree, right? So a bachelor's degree, right? You must have a 4 years degree to qualify, not a 3-year degree, but a 4-year degree for an EB3 professional. Or if you don't have the full 4-year degree, then you could be sponsored for the EB3 skilled worker. And then finally, the unskilled worker is something less than that, right? These are all the different kind of categories of EB3.
Yeah. I mean, there's EB5. Is there EB4?
There's EB4. Those are for special religious workers and other kind of very like super specific groups. And then there's the EB5, which are the investor green cards.
Yeah.
Spending again $1 million plus.
Yeah. Which might get replaced by Trump's gold.
I don't think so, but we'll see. You never know. It's a crazy world.
Yeah. What should I do to get my F1 visa renewed? I'm a nursing student here. Do I need to go to India to do so, or can I do it from USA?
So you only need to renew it if you need to travel. Okay, number one. You don't need to renew it to continue being a student, right? Because you're already here. As long as you're maintaining your classes and getting your I-20s renewed, right? You don't need to renew. You don't need to leave the U.S. Yep. Now, if you want to leave the U.S., then to return you need a visa stamp, right? And so then you need to get a new visa stamp at a consulate. So hopefully your school has all the information about how to do that. But yes, you need to apply at a U.S. embassy or consulate abroad, preferably your home country. And it's pretty easy to find information online about how to do that. The problem is the whole social media thing that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Okay. Cap gap in, here we go, some math to do. Cap gap in STEM and 5/18 till 4/1/26. Okay. H1B with employer B, cap with the current employer, unemployed from 5/18 to 6/30. DSO said unemployment is a must, any unemployment day.
Oh my gosh, this is the one you're going to start me off with? No warm-up time? Nothing? Yeah. Well, I want to make sure I understand this question.
Yeah. And I'm going to let Ajay know that, Ajay, I'm paying attention to the chat. So
yeah.
I think he's doing a super chat. So there's a limited character. So
yeah, sure. I understand. Yeah. So cap gap in the STEM ends May 18th. What I don't understand is till April 1st, 2026. I'm not sure what that means. But you have an H1 with the employer B. Assuming you have the OPT with the current employer. And you're it's a tough one to understand. Here we go. So applied for a cap gap while in STEM OPT, ended on May 18th. I see. Okay. I see, because H1B Cap Gap can go through April 1st of 2026. What I understand is the H1B is with the employer B. So you register with the employer, or employer B sponsored you, but your OPT is with the current employer. And you're unemployed from May 18th to June 30th. DSO said employment is a must, any unemployment days. As far as I understand the cap gap rules, they remain unchanged, right? Like if you're in your STEM OPT period and you have a certain number of unemployment days, just because you're in the cap gap doesn't mean you have more employment days,
Mm.
right? You're still subject to the same unemployment days limit, right?
Mm.
So I hope that helps you. It seems like here you're unemployed for a little over a month, right? Which by itself would not exceed the limit.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm on H1B from last 2 years. I work for a very small product-based company in healthcare remotely. I get six-figure salary. Is it going to be any issue for the stamping interview? Everything is legal.
Um, you're concerned about working for a small company and you're working remotely. So you're worried about what that might mean for your stamping process. And I don't see an issue here so long as you are complying with the terms of your H1B, right? So long as the company is, you're working legitimately for the company has done whatever they need to do in terms of filing appropriately, and you're doing what was promised on the H1B. I don't see you working for a small company remotely being an issue for the H1B stamping. I think remote work is very common nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, looks like it's all legit and
Hmm.
just
Yeah.
worried about small company and remote
Yeah.
probably is my guess. Yeah. Okay. I have 3 previous refusal for B1, B2 visitor visa. Will this refusal affect my chances of getting F1 visa?
Refusals for B1, B2 are generally because you are not able to prove your ties to your home country such that you would return, right? Now, the student visa has the same requirement. So I would say you had 3 chances, but all of which were denied. Um, it's likely you might get this one denied too for the same reason, unless you can really overcome the presumptions that the government has of you. Okay, that you will, it's almost certain that you're going to come back after you finish your schooling because of the ties. So make sure you talk about all the ties you have to your home country at your interview.
Yeah. What are the chances of getting visa approved if one already has a master's, though in a different field? Can my previous master's affect my chances of getting visa to study for another master's?
You're allowed to get as many masters as you want. It might affect your ability to get OPTs, right? There's a limit to how many successive OPTs you can get. But as far as I understand, you can keep going to school and get student visas so long as the school, the master's program itself qualifies for visa sponsorship, even if it's in a different field.
Yeah, and I'm assuming the question is I already have a master's in India or wherever their home country is. Now I want to do another master's in United States. Can I get F1 visa? Will
I mean,
there?
the F1 visa comes down to whether or not the school admits you. If you're admitted to go to school, then you can get a student visa to go to that school.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Employer filed for H1B might not get paid LCA wage post October 1st, early stage startup. What would be the pathway to secure H1B transfer if not paid LCA wage post October 1st?
That's tricky. I think you should talk to somebody about that. That is typically when you do a transfer, you have to show that you were paid. I don't know if the government's going to be looking for you being paid the exact wage because I don't know if they're going to have that information at their fingertips or the prior petition when they're looking at a new petition, right? So maybe you'll get away with it if you show you're paid something. But that being said, I think it's going to be a little tricky for you to get a transfer because you have to show that you're maintaining your status, right? And if you don't have the full payment to demonstrate you're doing the full work, that could be a problem for you to show that you're maintaining your status. I would certainly seek counsel on what to do there.
Yeah, and I'll put the link again in the description if people want like consultation. Okay, I got F1 visa approved, so I booked my flight in British Airways via London to Dallas. Will I face any kind of immigration problem in London?
No, no. In London, they just need to see you're not going to clear immigration in London. You're going to clear immigration in Dallas.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't have any issues there so long as they have your passport and visa to look at.
USCIS has been planning to do visa stamping within US. When will this start?
um, Don't hold your breath. This was introduced by the Biden administration, and they're very kind of like tech and kind of entrepreneurship forward administration and officers that I've met them in person. Those people are long gone. And this administration have no interest in making things easier for immigrants, right? So I don't think that's going to happen ever.
Yeah. Okay. I'm on H1B since October 2024. My company allows remote work from India long term. Is there a minimum number of days in a calendar year that I need to stay within USA to keep my H1B status active?
There's no minimum number of days. I know this kind of came up again in the article that
Yeah.
came out about those three workers in Abu Dhabi. But I can see the government saying, well, what are you doing, right? Like, are you working or are you not working for this company? If you're not working for this company, then why do you need the H1B, right? So this could be a judgment call they make. In many cases, and I've had clients that have had H1Bs and they are getting paid in the US. Okay. They are working remotely from India and they come in every once in a while to work and for meetings into the US. And historically, up until now, the last 20 something years, it has not been a problem. But for some reason, it feels like that may not go as smoothly now anymore, right? And we can't point to a specific law other than the officer may be feeling that you're truly not really keeping to the terms of your visa and making their own interpretation based on a misguided interpretation of the rules. So that's the risk.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of questions on when the F1 visa slots will be open. I believe it is already
They're open.
available.
Yeah, they should be open.
Yeah. And I know a few people commented that they got their appointment. So, okay, is there any changes to H1B lottery selection or possibility?
There's always a chance of a second selection. We have not heard anything. Once again, I tell people don't hold your breath. These selections are generally very minor. Only a few people are chosen. So I would not kind of pin many of your hopes on it, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm a social media lurker. I don't post anything. How are they going to judge me?
Well, they're not going to judge you for being a lurker. We're not judging you either. We're all lurkers in our own way. No, they're looking for postings. They're looking for posts, right? So if you haven't posted anything, keep your account public, right? If you haven't posted anything, it should be okay. And the whole point is they're looking for people who are posting adverse information.
What if they are following someone who is does all these crazy things? So that could potentially.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can see an officer saying, "Well, why are you following this person?" You're like, I was following them before they posted this crazy stuff, and I had no idea they were going to, right? But in this day and age, like that may not be enough of an excuse, right? So you may want to evaluate all of your connections and follows and unfollow those that you think may cause you issues, right? I think that's fine, and I think that would be actually I would feel like that's in compliance with what they're looking for. Like you don't want to be associated with troublemakers, so that's what you're doing.
Right? Yeah, and I'm assuming if they get 221G, this person is not going to be there to defend, and they're going to make an assumption and just maybe reject it.
Yeah, and then you'd have to reapply your explaining kind of, why you're actually, that you weren't posting anything and you had no control over what that person was.
Yeah.
So yeah, this can go in a lot of problematic ways.
Okay, is it recommended to travel to Canada and come back with ABR process? This is what you were talking about. Expired H1B travel stamp plus valid and active I-797A, traveling for 2 weeks only.
Yeah, if you have to travel, then I don't see a problem with the automatic revalidation process. Yeah, so long as you're making sure, speak with your company's lawyer, make sure you have all the documentation you need to do so, but you should be able to do that.
Yep. I'm on H1B from last 2 years. I think we already covered that. Expiring STEM OPT visa, will it impact my future chances to H1B after expiry? What?
No, the fact that your STEM OPT is expiring doesn't impact your ability to get an H1B. The two have nothing to do with each other. You can't, I mean, you have to get picking the lottery first. That has nothing to do with your expiring OPT visa or your STEM OPT. Let's say you got picked and then they filed a petition for you and you got approved. You probably are not going to be in the US, right? You have to be abroad and you have to process it there because your OPT is expired. So it probably affects, the way your ability to stay in the US until you get the H1B, but it doesn't have a direct effect on the H1.
Okay. What is the ideal process timeline for transferring H1B from current employer to new employer? Initiate while still working at the current employer or after quitting the current job?
If I were you, I would initiate it while you're working at your current employer. Your current employer is not going to find out in any way. Let the new employer file the H1B, get it approved. Once it's approved, then you can give notice because now you have a safe and secure place to go. And most other companies are pretty cool with that approach. So that's what we would recommend.
Last year, I quit a job later due to timesheet processing delay. My salary was delayed a month. However, I still updated correct employment end date in SAVP. Should I be concerned?
I don't think so. This is not anything you've done wrong. This is just an administrative error. I have a hard time understanding how this is going to cause you any future issues. So no, I think you're okay.
Yep. Okay. I'm late to apply for. Okay, I will take that question later on. I'm in OPT from June 24th, 2025, and I'm working for a company. I want to go to India in October. Is it safe to travel? Here we go.
I mean, generally speaking, if you have a visa stamp and you're working and there's nothing, fishy or, shady about your work, everything is in order, right? Everything is proper. Everything is legally sound. I think you're probably okay to travel. I would tell all F1s blanket wise not to travel, honestly. Like I just feel like it's too. I don't want to tell anybody not to travel because it's not like fair. Like who am I to say that? But on the other hand, I know it's something that a lot of lawyers are advising, and just because of how quickly things change, right? As of the things right now, the way it is right now, if you have a visa stamp, you're probably okay. But things can change very quickly with this administration, and you could be abroad when that happens, and then it wouldn't be okay, right? And it seems like there's some sort of like vendetta against students. So if this were to happen against anybody, it could be students, right? So I would say students on OPT, students generally, if you don't have to travel, I would say try not to.
Can we change privacy settings to private after visa approval? Till when should it be public?
That's a great question. I don't know. I mean, I would imagine you can go to private after the visa approval. However, understand the government always has the right to re-look into your case. And if they find that it's private now and they decide to deny it just because they feel like you're holding you're like trying to conceal something, that could be problematic. I can't see them doing that on a wide scale basis. But they do reserve that right.
Yeah. What about they probably, I don't think they need to make it public for CBP, but the CBP officer can ask them as well.
Yeah. And I would probably say CBP will likely kind of take like the recommendation of the State Department and the consulates and maybe kind of mimic their requirements and ask that you make the social media account public too for them to look at, right? So,
yeah.
I
mean, they can even ask to look into private messages.
Yeah.
So
maybe this is just a big kind of lesson or just kind of like a recommendation from the universe just to like stop messing with social media.
Yeah.
It's a big waste of time anyways.
Yeah. I'm on H4 now and want to change to F1. Can I apply to I-539 within US and later attend interview when I travel out of country, or to attend interview now itself without applying for I-539?
So if you want to change to F1 from H4, you can do it in one of two ways. You can apply for the I-539 here in the US, or you can travel, get an F1 stamp. We all know how hard that's going to be, and come back into the US with your F1 visa stamp. So there's a two alternate ways, right? So given those two alternate ways, you have to choose one.
Okay. OPT ended 27 February 2025. STEM OPT filed on time. RFE answered. Denial issued 24 June 2025. USCIS doubts first OPT job, but can prove EIN founder still working. Have 30 days to file MTR. Day 1 CPT possible. Yeah.
I mean, talk to a lawyer. This is a really messy situation here. My general advice to you, but this is not legal advice to you. You need to talk to somebody specifically. But just as like kind of a heads up, you're out of status right now. Or there's a strong argument that you're out of status. Okay. Filing an MTR is not going to help with that. You might get it approved retroactively, but those are very rare, right? So you may want to consider leaving the U.S. as soon as possible. But before that, make the plans to do that, and certainly talk to an attorney to get some help here. Yeah. And I'm sorry that happened here.
Yeah. And you guys, Vanguard can help with this type of situations?
Yeah, we can provide a consultation. Yeah. Or send you in the right direction.
Yeah. Okay. It's better to delete Instagram because I've seen much reels against USA and I don't want to like anything against it. It's better to delete. Well, sure, I guess. I'm not sure the question, but
yeah, but you've had an Instagram account for the last 5 years, right? So one of the questions is, what accounts have you had for the last 5 years? Now you're suddenly deleting it. So that can look like negative towards you. What are you trying to hide, right? Their assumption is if you delete something or refuse to make it public, that you're trying to hide something, right? So weigh and balance that consideration against the one that you're communicating.
Okay. I'm on H1B and I am planning to quit my job due to personal reasons, but I would like to continue job search once I quit. I don't want to move to H4 EAD. I'm assuming that's the part. Is H4 change of status a good option, or are there any good options? Any other good options?
You're planning to quit and not work. So the only option, if you're married, I'm assuming you're married, you're talking about the H4. So if you're married, then the H4 change of status is your only option if you plan to stay here. It's your only and best option for you to remain in the U.S. while not working.
Yeah. Or enroll in school, possibly. And I don't know if that.
Right. You can enroll in school. I'm assuming that maybe there's a break needed and maybe school is just going to be like more work. But yeah, you can do that too. Then you would have to apply to school, be admitted, change your status to F1. That seems like a lot of work when changing to H4 is just as easy. And you can also attend school on H4. So.
As I asked previous question about stamp decline just 2 minutes ago, is day 1 CPT a possible option? This is for that MTR.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, in order to do day 1 CPT, you have to be in status. If you've had your STEM OPT denied, then no school is going to enroll you because they're not going to consider you to be in status. You understand? They're going to consider you to have a gap in your status. So you're going to have to. They're going to think you're going to have to leave the U.S. and re-enter with a visa to start with their program.
Okay. Are you seeing startup founders applying for H1B sponsored by their own startup or H1B modernization rule actually getting approved under
Good question.
current administration? Yeah.
We'll find out. We're filing one. This is
Nice.
the first one that I've heard of. I'm on a bunch of lawyers groups, and I haven't really heard of any lawyer doing this yet, honestly. We are actually filing one. It's a H1B Cap case. They came to us a little late, so it's like we're on the gun. We have until June 30th to file, but we're doing it. And so, yeah, we can update you all with how that works. Find out in the next few weeks.
Nice.
Yeah.
So essentially, if someone started a company, they can sponsor their own H1B.
Yeah, per the H1B modernization rule that they refer to.
Yeah.
You can be the sole owner and be the beneficiary of the H1B. Be the sole owner of the company that sponsors your H1B. And 50% of your time can be devoted to being the CEO, and the other 50% can be devoted to whatever your degree is and the work that's related to your degree, right? You only get an H1B for 18 months in that case, initially.
Oh, gotcha.
And you have to show that you have enough work to do, you have contracts, you have customers, you have whatever it is to show that you have the likelihood of having a job.
Okay. Can you tell me, does two sponsors supporting my expenses, one in US and other one in home country, can lead to visa refusal, or is it normal? I'm assuming F1 visa. But
I'm assuming F1 visa. I'm sorry, Yassine, I don't know the answer to that question. It's not really something that comes up in my practice, nor the practice of most lawyers. So I don't know the answer to that question. I think that's something that you can probably talk to your school about. They would probably have more practical experience.
Yeah. All right. We'll do this last question, or maybe one more. But I'm on STEM OPT right now. My wife is on F2. So how can I change her status on separate F1, or she can continue as a F2 until STEM expires?
Yeah. I guess, why do you need to change your status? Maybe you think that something changes for you now that you're on STEM OPT. But as long as you're on STEM OPT, you're still F1. You're F1 STEM OPT. So as long as you're F1, she's F2, right? So if you just want her to stay here, then nothing needs to be done, right?
Yeah.
But if she needs to go to school herself, or she wants to work, then she needs to change her status to something else.
Yep. Okay, last question of the day. Done with my bachelor's, going home for extension of visa, expires in January 2026. Going to start master's in fall. Basically, do not want to shut the door to going home during semester breaks.
So done with my bachelor's, going home for extension of the visa, expires in January 20. Going to start the master's. Don't want to shut the door to go home during semester breaks. I guess, when does the master starts in the fall? You may not get back in time for the start of the master's. I mean, I don't know how long the 221G process is going to take. So this is a choice you're going to have to make, and I'm sure your school is dealing with this on a widespread basis. So maybe get the counsel of your school or anybody there to help with the question. I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Samir, for doing this. And everybody else, again, links will be in the description if you need to consult with Samir or his team. Thank you, Samir. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Take care.
Bye.